the gate! Israel is a terrorist state! Open the sea! Close the gate! Israel is a terrorist state! Open the sea! Close the gate!
This is a historic occasion today. And the reason why it is historic is because everyone remembers the action taken by the community and labor in 1984 at Pier 80 in San Francisco, where the Ned Lloyd Kimberly was picketed. And as a result of that, longshoremen did not cross the picket line in opposition to the apartheid government in South Africa.
Trading in San Francisco, it's more than symbolic. Longshoremen from Local 10 are hitting South African and American businesses in the pocketbook. They're vowing not to touch the South African cargo on this Dutch ship, even though tonight a federal judge is telling the workers they have to.
To hell with the laws, to hell with the injunctions. I believe that that's what's necessary.
This is more than just another demonstration. This is a challenge to our system of free enterprise. Here you have millions of dollars worth of goods on a ship back there, and people here saying that if you do business with South Africa, you can't do it here.
This money is made off the most extreme exploitation of the black people in South Africa. Families are divided, people are being pushed out. It's like if you were in California and people were pushed out on the Mojave Desert and put in tin shacks with no way to grow food and no way to live, and they die. Every minute in South Africa, a child under 5 on the average dies of starvation.
What appears to be certain legal action against their union and an arbitrator's ruling that'll hold back guaranteed weekly pay, longshoremen are still refusing to handle the cargo from South Africa. Remaining in the holds of the Dutch vessel, the steel, coal, glass, wool, and auto parts scheduled to have been unloaded here, along with some cargo from Australia.
I've been aboard this ship 3 times, and I'll work any other. Matter of fact, I was in the gang that discharged the Australian cargo. We have no quarrel with the people of Australia. We have no quarrel with Ned Lloyd lines. We have a quarrel with the South African government.
At a dockside rally this morning, longshoremen and supporters repeated their feelings about the reports of life in South Africa, which they regard as oppressive.
It's got the blood of the courageous youth in Soweto that stood up against the vicious, racist apartheid regime.
The longshoremen are saying that this is a matter of conscience to them. It's a reaction to the recent oppression of labor leaders in South Africa, the detention, the torture, even the killings of people who have spoken out against the policies of apartheid. The Pacific Maritime Association is taking its case against the union to the federal courts to force the unloading of the cargo, in spite of the longshoremen's contention that this is the action of individual members. While the dockside rally kept the gates of Pier 80 closed, a floating picket line by a group called the Peace Navy paraded on the bay side of the ship, telling anyone looking from that side why the cargo is being ignored.
Demonstrators who tried to block the unloading of cargo from South Africa. It happened on Pier 80. Riot squads, as you see, moved in on 200 protesters. They were pushed out of the way, and trucks moved in to unload the ship. But some dock workers who support the protesters said this city of San Francisco is not following its own rules against apartheid.
The hypocrisy of this administration of this city for passing paper resolutions against apartheid and then using the police force to remove people and workers who are trying to strike an economic blow against that regime.
Boycott of South African cargo in 1984 at Pier 80 for 11 days. In that situation, the longshoremen took the dispatch, went to the job, looked at the cargo, told the employer, we do not work South African cargo, and turned around and went home. This happened twice a day. Each shift changed for 11 days until the employers got a federal court injunction. And then the boycott was over. There was a large group of people outside both morning and evening, but these were in support of the longshore actions. But it was a longshore courage in deliberately violating the Taft-Hartley law and the union contract that made that successful. This was a result of over a decade of education within the local on the horrors of the South African apartheid regime. So the membership was well educated. And what actually precipitated the action was when South Africa arrested the entire leadership of the Black Miners Union and charged them with treason, were threatening to execute them. And that precipitated the action when I made the motion in Local 10, which passed unanimously, not to work the cargo on the next ship that came in. That's what happened in '84.
Free Palestine! Don't cross the picket line! Free Palestine! Don't cross the picket line! Free Palestine! Don't cross the picket line!
The thing that is going to make Israel and the United States both understand that this cannot continue is the whole question of commerce and trade. This action today to disrupt commerce regarding Israel's ability to do business is going to make them, that they're very, very vulnerable on that question. And this was critical in building the mobilization against the apartheid. Three-pronged: boycotts, sanctions, divestment. Not necessarily in that order, but when you look at what happened in 1984 in San Francisco, that action contributed to raising the level of resistance and awareness. I think that this action today is going to happen.
If longshoremen decide they're not going to cross the picket line, then the Zim ship that's coming in is not going to be worked. And that's going to be repeated around the world in Norway, Sweden, South Africa. 1.5 million people that are trapped inside a small area. That's really not a nation state. It's not a viable nation state. They got an apartheid wall up around, or at least part of the West Bank. And I think people are beginning to understand that the Israeli government has to be sent a message loud and clear that their policies towards the Palestinian people are unjust, and they're going to suffer the consequences. I mean, it's not business as usual when they commit acts of murder like this.
The people of Gaza have been under siege for a couple of years now, since Hamas took power in Gaza, and Israel has used that as an excuse to cut off all aid, virtually all shipments of aid to Gaza. So the people are really suffering. It's an open-air prison, and it's a human tragedy, and it's preventable. Gaza deserves to live. People of Gaza deserve to live just like the rest of us, and Israel, with the United States' aid, is preventing that.
Well, as a paramedic, I mean, I can tell you that it's just, you know, it's just so difficult to understand what's happening to those people from being an occupied people, and from you know, from people being shot by snipers to bombs being dropped on people, you know, and you know, there are other paramedics who have to go in and deal with that, and so I can relate to that as a paramedic, of what it would be like to try and take care of people who are just being so violently oppressed, and it's a horrible thing.
The reason we're having this picket line today is to protest the criminal role of Israel in attacking the flotilla, murdering people, the illegal blockade of Gaza, and the apartheid regime of Israel. And we believe that the labor movement, the unions around the world, should actually organize a blockade of Israel, not Gaza. So this is a very historic step of American working people to say, stop Israel from doing what it's doing. We're also, the ILWU has also called for a military cutoff of all military aid to Israel, which is absolutely critical, because the United States has given a pass to the criminal activities of the Israeli government, and that has to stop. And the American people here on the picket line are saying we're going to put a stop to it.
Bring down the apartheid wall. Injury to one is an injury to all. Bring down the apartheid wall.
30 years ago in Oakland, we stopped the unloading of South African ships that started to dismantle the the apartheid regime of South Africa. We're here today to dismantle the Israeli apartheid regime. We're going to do the same thing.
I was a co-founder with Steve Zeltser, the Labor Committee on the Middle East, and this is a very exciting moment because about 1989 and 1990, we had a picket line for a Zim ship over in San Francisco, and with about 40 people, we didn't have the kind of support that we have today. This is a really exciting moment because Labor Council resolutions are pieces of paper. People out on the street with their feet is what really counts, and this is an historic moment. Back in the late 80s, we were protesting because the Zim line had signed a contract with San Francisco just after the supervisors had passed a resolution saying we could not do business with San Francisco with companies that did business with apartheid South Africa. So what I did, after the vice president of Zim Lines denied that they had any business with South Africa, I made telephone calls to the Zim offices in Durban, in Cape Town, in Toronto, in New Orleans, in New York, and I got their shipping schedules out of South Africa. I gave this information to the Board of Supervisors, and they decided that they would make an exception, as they always do for Israel, and they allowed this to happen. But this is a culmination today of an incredible movement, and the people who heroically resisted the Israeli commandos on the Mavi Marmara are heroes, because without that we would not be here today.
This is an action by people who care about justice and who are reacting to what the invasion of Israel and the capturing and the piracy in the Mediterranean recently. The Israeli action killed 9 people. No people are going to die here today, and no people are going to be injured if at all possible. What we want to do is to prevent the unloading of an Israeli ship. Let's keep in mind that for 43 years, not a single ship has ever been unloaded in Gaza. There is a blockade there. We're going to have a blockade for 24 hours here in order to prevent the unloading of one ship for a short period of time. And hopefully it's just the beginning, until we achieve for Gaza the kinds of rights that Israelis enjoy around the world.
It's indeed a significant turning point in the work with labor global-wise, and it is significant because ILWU has honored our picket line. It is something that we cherish. It is something that we think that will make an effect and an impact not only in the United States of America but also worldwide as well. They have responded to the call. The labor councils in Alameda and the labor council in San Francisco has responded by encouraging labor unions, members, activists to support dozens of other community organizations who work to make this protest, this picket successful. Hundreds of people came this morning at 5:30 in the morning. It tells you something. It tells you that people are ready. People are wanted to tell this government and the government of Israel that they cannot be above the law, and they have to be held accountable for what they did against this unarmed civilians on the flotilla ship in the Mediterranean.
It's my view that the public really doesn't know the issue.
What is the issue?
The issue is, the core issue, in my view, is Zionism and the corrosive effects of Zionism on other people.
So, what does Zionism mean, do you think, for the people of Israel, the Palestinians, and the world?
Well, Zionism, I think, means different things to different people.
What does it mean to you?
Well, to me, it's a policy whereby some people have more privilege than others.
And why is the United States supporting this, if it's discriminatory?
I believe that our senators and congressmen want to keep their jobs. Even Barbara Lee doesn't want to be too critical of Israel.
You believe that Israel's an apartheid state?
Yeah, I think they treat Palestinians differently than the Ashkenazi Jews or even the Sephardic Jews. And even within Israel itself, there are Israelis, Hebrew-speaking people that are opposed to the policy of their government. The longshoremen in this port were the first ones to take action against the apartheid regime in South Africa, and that was followed by students and people in other countries following the leadership of the Longshore Union here.
I am here to protest this ongoing insanity and apartheid-like regime that has been going on for a long time, and in hopes that the labor workers will actually concede to what is, I think, is good for the good of the labor movement, and that is to do like they did in 1984 and send this ship packing back out to sea. They are not wanted here.
This is the first time an Israeli ship attempting to unload in the United States has been at least delayed. This is definitely strong demonstration of union, pro-Gaza, really pro-justice movement in this country, but taking a stand and saying no Israeli ships will unload in our country.
But from what I can understand, people are lacking food. People cannot rebuild in Gaza. Construction supplies are not allowed. They haven't even been allowing chewing gum. I mean, this is outrageous. And the whole excuse of saying, well, they're firing rockets from Gaza. How many Israelis have been killed by rockets? I've been told maybe 16. Now, I'm not suggesting that firing rockets is right, but people have a right to resist. How many Palestinians were killed by the Israelis in Gaza? So this is not, there's no parity because of the fact that the Palestinians aren't getting arms from the United States. It's going to Israel. So I think that to answer your question, when one looks at the fact that there's a blockade there was never a blockade in South Africa. I mean, the South Africans were under white minority rule, but they weren't getting treated the way the Palestinians are. I mean, I think that's what they really mean in terms of what's specifically happening to the Palestinians in Gaza. It's worse.
Of education for children of Palestine in Gaza, West Bank, what is it, in your view? I mean,
well, the situation is that, first of all, we know that education depends on people being able to have the basic essentials of life. You can't educate kids who come to school hungry, who don't have a place to study, who live in fear of their lives, whose parents are threatened or hauled off to jail, tortured, or killed. So we also know that the Israelis last year, when they invaded Gaza, bombed the schools, directly bombed schools in Gaza. So we believe that the conditions of education in Palestine are atrocious.
And our union has passed a statement supporting this action and condemning the illegal attack on the flotilla and calling for an end to the blockade of Gaza. And we've had a long history of showing solidarity with the Palestinians. We consider it part of what we do as a union to show internationalism for those who are facing oppression, and our international federation, the Education International, has also called for an end to the settlements in the West Bank, and as well as more recently a condemnation of this attack.
And your president has sent a letter of solidarity with the action?
Yes, our president has sent a letter of solidarity with the action, which reflects a statement that the executive board passed last week.
There needs to be some kind of
firm action to show that the world is serious, that you cannot do this. And people I know who go to Israel regularly because they had been supporters of Israel have been appalled by the militarization. They don't even feel comfortable there anymore, and they used to. And they feel bad about the way that Israel has been treating the Palestinians through the wall and these other repressive things. And it seems like the way the policies of Israel have been, that they have tended to drive away people who are by their nature peaceful, who were settling there and thinking of living there.
Anytime there's working people suffering oppression, repression, and the outright onslaught of capitalism and imperialism, workers all over the planet are affected by that, and we should stand in support every time there's an injury to one. It's an injury to all.
Now, in the schools, it seems like the schools are in crisis. They don't have money, yet it seems like there's a lot of money for Israel for militarization.
Always. And this is really good, I think, to publicize even a local event like this in Oakland. You got high poverty, high unemployment rate, and this is perfect for young people to see protests, see people in action, standing up for their rights to jobs, to livelihood.
I think the labor movement should consider to have a general strike in support of the people of Palestine, the workers of Palestine, because, like I said, an injury to one is an injury to all, and it's high time that we unite and stop doing half measures and go all out and come and struggle.
Even here, as workers, we've been going through a lot of being called upon to give up pay or other kinds of compensation, but it's nothing compared to what people in Palestine have to go through every day, year after year, under occupation.
And what do you think about the United States militarily and economically giving Israel billions of dollars while they're cutting back services here in the United States?
It's intolerable, it's despicable, and it's time for everybody, all workers, I think, to stand up and say, why are my taxes going to support destruction when we need what we need here we're not able to pay for? We need health care, we need housing, we need education, and all of those teachers are being laid off. There's an increasing number of homeless families now, and so on. And so, we're struggling to try to get single payer here, but we can't get it, and there's no money for anything, but we send over $3 billion a year to Israel. And I just have always thought it was ironic that we send all this money to Israel and they use a lot of it to demolish Palestinians' homes, when here there's not enough money to provide homes for people who need them.
We end up fighting over crumbs about whatever dollars are left over from the federal government or from Sacramento that come down to local governments, and union members are being pitted against the people who live in the city, and then the voters want to come after our pensions. And what we really need to do is go after the real money, which is $200 billion a year being spent in Iraq, and go after the Bush tax cuts, which were worth trillions of dollars to rich people, and go after all the money that's in the Cayman Islands. And that's where the money is that we need to have a decent country again.
This is a huge amount of our money. I think Israel is the #1 country receiving the largest amount of aid from the United States, and a lot of it's military aid as well. So we're helping keeping people fighting in the Mideast instead of talking to each other and working things out with respect for each other. And no, we obviously need a great deal of money. I'm a teacher at a community college. We need money. We're broke. Many states are broke, and they need money from the federal government, and it's going to the military instead.
And this is a popular demand that will move the government of the United States in allocating resources for social programs and for jobs and for health care and for housing, instead of giving close to $4 billion a year to the state of Israel. I think the labor movement is the potential force that can make this change happen. And I think this is the spark.
When you have a leader of a country like Netanyahu of Israel
That has to change. We have to change not only the government there, but the government here. The policy to Israel has been one-sided for too long. We're involved in 2 wars simultaneously in the Middle East. And what the American people really want, and the labor movement want, is peace, jobs, and justice. I see students coming to community college that come up to me and say, Professor Kelley, I don't know whether to buy the book or pay the tuition. And it's only $28 a unit. There's a lot of people that are desperate in this country right here, as they are in Gaza, as they are all over the world. But what's the difference is people are coming up and uniting and say, it's time to make a difference. This war has gone on in Afghanistan too long, Iraq too long, and the situation with the Palestinians has got to change if we're going to stop World War III.
No business as usual with Israel. They've done some very horrendous, horrible, unconscionable things, and they need to be put on alert that they can't do that kind of stuff. And that's what we're here to say.
We've taken a number of different stands against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, on May Day. So we're just here again as a union to take a stand for justice and join this picket till they end the siege in Gaza.
So this is a labor issue, in your view?
Well, I mean, it's all connected, right? At this point, I mean, there's a imperialist, capitalist class that's running this world and doing what they want to do, and until there's going to be justice in Palestine and here in the States, we're going to have to be out on the picket lines.
I'm carrying a sign I've been carrying for many years now. What borders does the Israeli Defense Force defend? And I've had a lot of abuse, but I haven't had any answer to my question. And that's because Israel can't acknowledge any borders. And because it can't acknowledge any borders, it can't be in an alliance with the United States. Whatever Bush, or now Obama, and his Secretary of State say, they simply lie when they say we are in an alliance with Israel. An alliance is a legally bound by treaty arrangements. And LBJ wanted a treaty with Israel back in '67, but they wouldn't give it to him. Why? Because they'd have to acknowledge their boundaries. But as far as they're concerned, their boundaries may be from the Nile to the Euphrates, the Greater Solomonic Empire. Why not?
The United States is the facilitator of Israel. There's an ongoing debate within the literature as to whether the United States has power and control over Israel or whether Israel calls the shot. Regardless of what position you take on that, there's no question that the United States does not put any pressure on Israel to end its repression of the Palestinians as well as stopping the settlements, in spite of the lip service and rhetoric even of the Obama administration.
Are you surprised that the U.S. government is continuing to support this policy of Israel and the murders that they did on the ship?
It's shocking, it's appalling, and I'm so happy to see so many people out here today to let the U.S. government know how we feel.
We definitely need to have mobilization of working people, and working people is the most important thing, not under immigration, not just under blacks, not just under gays, but working people, because we all tie to that one thing. That's what put us all together. All that other stuff divides us, taking one issue at a time. It's like an octopus. You can fight each of his legs, but you got to kill him at the head.
I think we've got a building movement here, and we got a long way to go for sure. The other side has a death grip on Congress and most of the media. So, I think in terms of public opinion, the strides have been enormous. The question is translating those shifts in public opinion into, political effect and changes in U.S. policy.
Where do you think the United States government stands in this regard?
Well, actually, I think they're not prepared for this, although I think some elements of the Democratic Party are probably starting to take notice and say, well, we want Israel to be more subtle Zionist, but we need to keep the pressure on so that Zionism and other forms of apartheid are ended.
The Transport Workers Solidarity Committee is made up of a group of transport workers in the Bay Area, and we've been helped organize this with some of the other solidarity organizations with Palestine. We've also, people on the Transport Workers Solidarity Committee have been involved in pickets against the war, with the Oakland teachers here on the port against the war. At the beginning of the war, the members participated in the actions that took place at this very same terminal at SSA when the police assaulted the picket lines.
I think the more we educate the American people about Israel and about what Israel stands for, the more they will come to see things our way, and hopefully stop supporting Israel, so that the rest of the people there, especially the Palestinians, can survive essentially.
You think this is going to change the position of the AFL-CIO, the trade unions, who have been supporting Israel without a question? I mean, no criticism.
No, I don't think it's going to change their position. The higher echelons of labor in these countries are so damn conservative that they're in lockstep with the Republican Party. I mean, even though they call themselves Democrats, which is, one party, the same wing of the same party. So no, I don't think that the AFL's CIO is going to change anytime soon. And labor conservatism is alive and well. But it is actions like this that will do a little crack in the dam and hopefully bust the dam wide open.
I don't think it will. I think it will maybe help educate some of the rank and file. And I do see the ILWU here and its response today as a positive sign as to, a backhanded support for the protests.
My name is Reem Asil. I'm a Palestinian American living here in the States. I'm here in solidarity with my Palestinian brothers and sisters who are in this long fight and struggle for a free Palestine. There is currently a 4-year blockade on Gaza, which has imprisoned millions of Gazans, including my family members, in essentially an open-air prison. And we're asking, the world is finally starting to see, and unions all over the world are uniting to really join this growing movement to dismantle the apartheid state of Israel.
When I first heard about it, actually, I wept. I didn't think I would see this in my lifetime, actually. When I first went to Palestine with Break the Silence mural project in 1989 during the first Intifada, the idea was to bring back to the United States stories about Palestinians. So it was really to break the silence, to let people know what life was like, and it was very, very hard for people to know what was happening because the media didn't report it and all of that. So it was really to provide an alternative. And that's still what I'm involved in doing, is using culture to tell a story, because it touches people in their minds and in their hearts, and that's when understanding and connection can really take place, I think.
Being part of the queer community, we fight for liberation and humanitarian issues on every front, and we're strongly opposed to Israeli policies and feel we do a lot of work in the queer community, spreading the word about this, organizing against what Israel's doing.
Now, you were at a picket recently at the Castro. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, there was the opening of the San Francisco LGBT Film Festival, sponsored by Frameline, and this year, once again, they've had the Israeli government as one of the sponsors of the festival. And we fought this a few years ago, spoke to them, and they had sort of stopped doing this, but this year they've had the Israeli government sponsoring the festival again. So we had a great picket line at opening night the other night, Thursday night. We had a lot of people out, letting people know that the queer community does not want Israeli blood money.
the arbitrator ruled, all right, you can go, it's safe now because it's not the picket line. He said, fuck that. Oh, you wouldn't know.
Palestine, don't cross the picket line. Free, Palestine, don't cross the picket line. Don't cross the picket line.
Gaza, we're here in their memory. We're here to say to the government of Israel, you cannot kill with impunity. We're here to break the illegal, immoral siege of Gaza and end the occupation of Palestine. We're here to say that apartheid Israel cannot continue its practices against Palestine.
Arbitrator came out and ruled in our favor.
The arbitrator ruled in the ILWU favor that it's an unsafe environment for us to go to work. So guys will still receive pay. The lady from the PMA, the shipping company representative, said if they move the protesters, then will we go to work? And we was like, hell no, how are you gonna move the protesters? You gonna go out there and beat them like you did in 2003? We don't work under those conditions. So it's a good day. Today's a good day.
The National Lawyers Guild is appalled by the actions of Israel. But basically I'm here today to try to avoid a repeat of the events in 2003 when OPG used sublethal weapons against peaceful demonstrators and longshoremen.
Are you surprised the police have very little presence here today?
No, I'm not really too surprised.
Why is that?
Well, after that event, we sued and we worked out a comprehensive rewrite of OPG crowd control policy. So here to make sure that that's followed today, and so far things look pretty cool.
I think it's about time we tried to do something. But this has been great. I mean, I'm real pleased. Local decided to do what it decided to do, and came down here just to be a part of it. The ILWU has a long history of very notable and honorable history on issues of social justice. And in a certain way, I guess it started with the Seattle longshoremen in 1919. They refused to load military equipment for the American troops in Siberia. Then there was a lot of stuff, of course, during the 30s. The first historic thing Local 10 did, it refused to load military, well, scrap tin, nickel, brass for the Italian war machine when they invaded Ethiopia. Well, that's 1935. It's less than a year after the 34th strike. So it started pretty early on. And then, of course, there was a lot of stuff around Japanese scrap iron, you know, and the invasion of Manchuria and all this sort of stuff.
Is this why the government wanted to crush the ILWU during the 50s, the witch hunts, because of its tradition?
Well, absolutely. We were a big thorn in their side for years, and we remained a thorn because, as you know, we refused to load military cargo to Pinochet in 1978. I was the officer. I know all about that. And we also refused to load military cargo to El Salvador in 1980. And I was the officer in that. But the one in 80 was interesting because, I'll take a minute on that. There was, first of all, in neither case was there a picket line. We just announced we ain't loading it, that's all.
We've already had communications from dock workers unions around the world that the longshoremen, if they don't cross this picket line, That's exactly what they plan on doing in other countries, and it's going to have an effect on the Israeli government. It has to, because global trade is the key to their economy. You know, they're just a small country in the Middle East. They have nuclear weapons, but they still need to have trade with other countries, and this will tend to isolate Israel economically if it's replicated in other ports around the world.
Are you happy about the results of the struggle of Puerto Rican students, University of Puerto Rico, winning their strike?
Absolutely, that's how you do it. I mean, the labor movement in this country really made strides, not because of anything from the Rose Bowl administration or the preceding administration. It was because they took over plants in Michigan, and they took over the plants. That was labor struggle. No, they weren't waiting for no legislation coming, God sent from the Democrats or Republicans or whoever in power. They took matters into their own hands. They did what they had to do at the point of production, and that's where our power lies. So if we stop production, then we rule. That's what we got to teach our fellow workers.
The big thing, you know, that the folks in Palestine say is, you know, our biggest fear is that people are going to forget about us, you know, and the sheer fact that, you know, people are risking their lives, risking, you know, everything to bring humanitarian aid is really an indication that the Gazans will never be forgotten, right? And that this struggle will always continue until there's justice in Palestine. Okay.
This is a historic day. This has never been done before in the United States, where an Israeli ship was shut down for 24 hours, or shut down at all. So we have taken a big step forward today, and it will not be the last one. We have to really thank our union brothers and sisters for what happened today. This action would have never happened without our union brothers and sisters who stood in solidarity with us.
I think it shows a good separation between the worker here in the U.S. and U.S. policy, that the workers here are in support of workers around the world, that we won't stand for any oppression of any type of workers.
And how has Israel been able to get away with this apartheid regime for so long?
Wow. That's probably one I can't answer. I'm pretty sure with the same schemes and policy that the U.S. government used with the blacks and Latino population here.
Keep them divided.
Keep them divided, you know, and a lot of money and a lot of state militia, a lot of police. One day protest is not enough. I mean, we have to have a continued fight. A direction to go in, you know, like some type of workers' party with a connection to fight up here. Labor unions only can do so much without a political force. I mean, everything is falling under the Democratic Party.
And Boxer and Feinstein.
Yeah, and Obama. So
Obama.
Yeah, so we all falling under that direction, which they're not for the working people. As we see, we need to get a health care bill passed.
What was passed?
I don't know, some mediocre, you know, plan that, you know, your kid can stay on the plan to 26. I think that's one thing we got. I mean, my opinion of that is people stay pretty healthy to 26. We should have had a plan for everybody. But I mean, it shows you that they made sure they protected the profit of the insurance company, the pharmaceutical company, the hospital chains, and everybody else involved within the healthcare system. So whatever changes they did not affect their profit. And that's the huge problem with any public system.
You think Israeli shipping line Zim is going to be hurting today?
Oh yeah, very much. Very much. And some of these other shipping lines who happen to be in here. But hell, if you want to bring an Israel ship in here, then everybody got to pay. You know, and we hope other people around the world take the same action, you know, against any type of other oppression that's going on.
Are you proud of the ILWU?
Very proud. very
unusual.
Very proud. God, people stood up today, and it, you know, for a cause.
Today, what you witnessed was the current young membership of ILWU Local 10 answering the call of the brothers and sisters who came before them. We understand what international solidarity means. It is not an empty slogan. You have to give something up. That's right. Our members were willing to give up a day's pay today. That's what solidarity means. This is indeed a people's victory. And remember, just because it's not on the front page of the New York Times, just because it's not on CNN, come on. That's right. We have to get the word out. That's right. We claim no